Welcome to Exploring the Paranormal. Hosted by Heather Lee, PhD, Exploring the Paranormal offers a new, fresh look into paranormal research. Join Heather as she discusses some of the many haunted locations worldwide, discusses why these locations are haunted, hear from paranormal researchers about their personal experiences at these locations. Additionally, Heather takes a journey into the science behind the paranormal, discussing topics such as thermodynamics and the Heisenberg principle and how they both affect paranormal activity. Now, your host of Exploring the Paranormal, Dr. Heather Lee.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the show. I am super excited about today's show. You guys, I have an amazing guest for you. He'll be coming on just shortly. He's already backstage waiting. But you guys, as you guys know, I like to start off the show with some reminders, some things that are happening, and also to remind you guys to share the love. Make sure you say hello when you join in on the show and ask any questions that you have for me or my guest. You know, you guys know we always love answering questions and talking about the paranormal. That's why we do what we do. So let's get this show started so I can bring my guest on for you guys real quick. I do want to remind you guys that I actually got a shipment yesterday. So if any of you were wanting the Haunted Florida Lighthouses book that is releasing September 11th, I do have 20 copies of those available, along with several copies of Haunted Southern Nevada Ghost Towns and Ghosts and Legends of the Vegas Valley. You guys, I'll autograph them and ship them to you. You can get one for $25, two for $45, or all three of them for $65, and that includes shipping. So make sure you guys let me know and reach out. I do have a wait list for some of the Haunted Florida Lighthouses, so I will be reaching out today to let you guys know that they are in. And don't forget, early 2024, Haunted Florida Ghost Towns will be released, and then spring of 2024, you can expect Haunted Florida Roadside Attractions and Ghosts and Legends of the Florida Pirates. So make sure you stay tuned for that. And there's several more behind that will be coming through shortly. And then one huge announcement. I don't know if you guys saw yesterday, but I released a new ebook. It is called 13 Things Ghost Hunting Has Taught Me About Network Marketing. For those of you who don't know, I spent many years in network marketing with several different companies. And the last company I was with, I found some better success than I had with other companies, and I learned a lot about network marketing. But then I also learned that there's a lot of things that you can take from what we do in the paranormal field and use it for your business. So if you're in network marketing, direct sales, or have a business, it's a quick, easy read. I've had a lot of people come to me saying it was great advice for different things. It changed their mindset. So you can find that on Amazon. And it's available in ebook, or if you're like me and you like actually having the book, I do have it available for paperback for $9.99. Or when I place an order, I can ship one to you autographed for $15, and that would include shipping as well. And those, I might be sending a small little gift with them if you order them directly from me. So just a few more quick things. I know I'm talking fast, but I'm excited to get my guest on today. So I want to get through everything that I talk about in the morning. Tomorrow night on Ghost Education 101, we're having a roundtable discussion about collecting evidence with Larry Lawson from the Florida Bureau of Paranormal Investigations, Robert Bradley from CPRI, and Katie Foreman. They will be joining us to discuss their techniques and the importance of collecting evidence and how to not contaminate your evidence from paranormal investigations. And then Passport to the Paranormal will be Thursday night at 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Central with myself and Joe Frankie, and our producer Todd Bates will be joining us. And this show will be our last show for about just a couple months. We have a few things that we need to reorganize and get together. And of course, you guys know September and October are busy for both of us. But we will return hopefully in November, as long as there is a spot for us still on WLTK-DB Talk Radio. And I think that is everything. Oh, and don't forget, mark your calendar, September 25th, I'm teaching a course on the ABCs of Paranormal Research online through TMCC. And then Ghost Hunting 101 is a course I'm teaching on October 9th. You guys can check out TMCC to register for those courses as well. So I know I babbled through everything. Good morning, Courtney. Thank you for joining us. And all of this information is on my Facebook page at Exploring the Paranormal show. You can find it there. But today I'm super excited to be joined by guest Barnaby Jones. He is the founder and lead researcher for Wisconsin, or WICAPS. It's Cryptids, Anomalies, and the Paranormal Society. He is currently the host of Monsters on the Edge and the Untold Radio Network and Whispers from the Dark podcast. I will also make sure that I share his information on where you can learn more about him. But let's bring him on the show and get to know our guests a little bit better.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you doing today?
Tired.
I won't keep you too long, and I'll let you go to sleep.
You're good.
Just let me know when you start dozing off.
Oh, you'll tell. You can tell. Yeah.
Okay. So welcome to the show. I've been looking forward to this show since we booked it several months back. So definitely excited. You're outside of Todd Neese. You're my only other cryptozoology, expert, I guess you would say, or specialist in the field that I've had on the show. So I have a lot of questions for you. But first, I know the introduction I had for you was brief and quick. Can you just let everybody know a little bit more about you and why you chose cryptozoology?
Sure. Yeah. So I've always been interested in the paranormal and the weird and the unexplained. I just never knew that these things were right here in Wisconsin. I mean, Wisconsin has a very interesting collection of weird stuff. We have 3 of the world capitals of UFO sightings right here in the state. 3 different locations that claim to be the most UFO whatever. We have Bigfoot, we have the Beast of Bray Road, the Dog Man down in southern Wisconsin. We have weird, strange portal areas in Wisconsin, and everything from lake monsters and you name it in this state. And when I realized that, I started going out and looking into these areas, and I had the very first time that I was down there in southern Wisconsin, I had a Bigfoot encounter. And I didn't know what to make of it. I didn't, want to go exploring into these dark woods without knowing, the trails or the area. It was at night. And I got a group together to investigate that area and went back. And that's how Cryptids, Anomalies, and the Paranormal Society was founded. And since then, we've had about 15 members of our team. Each member of the team consists of different areas of expertise. We all research different things, from the paranormal to psychics to mediums, survivalists, native lore and legends. And I just focus on cryptozoology because, I've always enjoyed going to zoos and, just love animals and learning about them. And so that's where I took my whole specialization of this stuff. And so that's what I do. And since then, it's just grown. We've gone over to several different states. I've done research for Bigfoot in Missouri and Colorado and Utah and Ohio, Kentucky, Tennessee, Illinois, Michigan, Minnesota, Wisconsin. I'm sure I'm missing a few and stuff, but I've been all over looking for these different creatures and phenomenon. And
you need to come to Florida and investigate the skunk ape.
I'm getting there. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have never been to Florida.
Okay.
It's the 2 far corners of the United States are where I still haven't been. I've been to all the other continental states except for Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Montana. I haven't been to any of them. And then Florida, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, that corner. So
okay. Yeah, I know in my Ghost Towns book that's coming out next year, we there's a chapter in there about it's in the Everglades, but it's the headquarters for the skunk ape research. And there's a lot of sightings around just the headquarters of the skunk ape. So it's like, I mean, it's one of those you have to wonder, are there skunk apes there because the headquarters is there, or did he put it there because there's a lot of sightings there? and it was really interesting researching that.
I would hope that they put the headquarters there because of the reports, but you never know.
I know. It's like, oh, there's a foundation about us. Let's go look.
Mhm. Tourism of the Bigfoot.
Yeah, they gave us a headquarters. So at night they all sit around the campfire outside. And one thing actually while you were talking that got me thinking is in I think it was the most recent Jurassic World where they actually had I guess you would say, I can't remember what they called herself, but it was a veterinarian basically of dinosaurs.
Mm-hmm.
Now, could you ever see eventually having a practice where you were a veterinary to these cryptids once it comes out that they're real or they become more mainstream?
Well, I guess it depends what they are. As far as like Bigfoot goes, a lot of the native legends and stuff say that they're more human than animal. So it'd be more like, our medicine than veterinary science, I guess. But I mean, it's all the same science. It's all, everything has a heart, everything has lungs for the most part. But yeah, I that would definitely be an interesting job to go around and, work on lake monsters and stuff. But
I'm just looking at, Dr. Zoolittle is what Courtney said. Exactly. So another question I had is, actually, have you ever come face to face with a cryptid?
I have. I've had several Bigfoot encounters that, and I call them that. I've never seen anything with my eyes.
Mm-hmm.
I have seen them on thermal imaging. I have had rocks thrown at me across the Pelican River in Rhinelander.
Mm-hmm.
And we were able to capture this thing on the other side, this heat signature that looks like it's lobbing a rock underhanded. And right as it does that, you hear the splash in the water. So I'm fairly confident that whatever was throwing these rocks is what I captured on the thermal imager.
Mm-hmm.
But whether or not that was a Sasquatch or one of these creatures, I mean, it's what I believe. We went across the river and actually found 3 different size footprints in the mud of the embankment on the other side. Barefoot footprints, 3 different sizes. So I would believe that there was 3 of these creatures over there. Yeah. Other than that, I've had been growled at from very close range where nothing showed up on the thermal. But the thing is the woods, when you go out there, for people that have never been in the woods, and want to talk about this stuff, there are areas where this stuff gets super thick, where flashlights don't penetrate, where thermal imaging can barely penetrate, and some could be 5-6 feet away from you, and you would never know it was there, even with all the technology that we have. So I've been growled at on a couple different occasions by something that I don't know what was. But yeah, I've never come actually face to face and seen something with my eyes yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How do you think you would react if you came face to face with Bigfoot?
Everybody says, this is how I'm going to react and this is what I'm going to do. And you never really know until you're there. Excuse me. I would like to say that when we go out in the woods, we all have GoPros or cameras, action cameras attached to us. So if something showed up in front of us, we would see it and have a recording of it. And I believe that if that was the case and I did come face to face with something, I would try and stay there as long as I could to get as much video evidence and other evidence as possible before I tried to hightail it out of there. Because if these things are predatory and you don't want to turn and flee and run from any creature, because they're going to consider you prey and they're going to chase you then. So
they're going to think you're playing and it's a game and they're going to win.
Yes, exactly.
So if you were actually kind of along the lines of seeing and coming face to face with a cryptid, is there any particular one that you want to see more than another?
I got to always go with the chupacabra.
Yep.
There's been a lot of people that have come forward and said that the chupacabra is nothing more than those Texas blue dogs,
Hmm.
the hybrids that have been discovered. I mean, it is a new species; it's a hybrid species,
Hmm.
and they've been discovered in areas where these attacks were taking place. But the MO of these dogs does not match what a chupacabra was supposed to be. So I've that's always been my favorite cryptid. That's always been the one I
Hmm.
want to see and investigate. So if I could come face to face with any of them, it'd be that one.
Yeah. Whenever I hear the description of those, they remind me of the Tasmanian devils from
I know.
Australia.
Oh yeah, yes, very much.
Is what they remind me of. So when it comes to the different types of cryptids, do you think that these are just animals that we haven't discovered yet and are elusive, or is it something that would be considered paranormal?
I would consider them just animals that haven't been discovered, or
Mhm.
necessarily that were thought to be extinct, or
Mhm.
that still exist. You know, look at like the plesiosaurs, the Nessie creatures,
Mhm.
these lake monsters. I mean, we have barely scratched the surface of what's underneath the water in a lot of these areas, and you just don't know what's under there.
Mhm.
So we could have these creatures still existing till modern day, and that doesn't mean that they're these supernatural beings, these creatures that, you know, shouldn't exist or whatnot. But they could very much be just relic populations of these animals,
Mhm.
especially with, you know, like the Nessies, the sea serpents, and as well as some of the flying pterosaurs, the pteranodon creatures and stuff like that.
Mhm.
We're learning a lot about the amphibians and reptiles that we do know exist. And a
Mhm.
lot of these creatures are able to asexually reproduce. They're able
Mhm.
to lay eggs, fertile eggs, that without a mated pair. So the
Mhm.
females of the species are either able to change sex to become a male so that they can reproduce, or they're able to just produce by themselves by cloning their own DNA and making more
Mhm.
replicas of it. So if you have this ability and you have a sustaining area of food source and quality and everything, you know, the Loch Ness monster would be able to, you know, survive with just one or two of its creatures and not need as big of a breeding population as we always thought.
Mhm.
So to have a small population of these different animals, the pterosaurs, the, you know, the water monsters and stuff, you could still have these. You know, you don't need the huge populations that we always assume with a healthy population.
Mhm. Yep. And Courtney actually brings up a good point. She says that it could also be man-made from pollution and other stuff.
Mhm.
So we don't know what we've done to the
Mhm.
evolution of the different animals.
Mhm. Absolutely.
Yep.
You know, that's a great point, because even, you know, an animal that is well suited to an area and is adapted for that area changes when you introduce these new stimulus.
Mhm.
So when a person evades into their area, you know, the spreading of cities and, you know, the deforestation and stuff like that, these
Mhm.
animals have to adapt. So they have to move in on our cities. You know, they start eating trash, they start foraging through gardens and so on and so on.
Mhm.
Anytime you have these, you know, human animal interactions, you're going to have those adaptations, you're going to have those new traits and new behaviors. So anything that we think we know could be 100% wrong. I mean, we're still learning stuff about
Mhm.
animals that we thought we had everything known about. And
Mhm.
one of the reasons for that is because when scientists are given money and grants to study these animals, they're given them for a specific reason. We
Mhm.
are looking at the breeding of said animal. We are looking at the, you know, the a specific trait of that animal because that's what it's funded to look at in that research.
Mhm.
But even if they're, you know, not specifically looking for any other traits, they can overlook all that stuff because you're not looking for what is there, you're looking for what you're looking for.
Mhm.
And it's a very narrow-minded way to do research, and unfortunately that's the way a lot of our science is done.
Mhm. Yeah, anything outside of that is found by a happy accident
Exactly, yep.
and not because you were looking for it. which is, the whole paranormal field and the whole science field, it needs to be completely overhauled, in my opinion. Yeah.
Absolutely.
There's too many strange things. But real quick, I wanted to ask at the beginning of the show, because I'm not sure, a lot of the audience, I did have a lot of people reach out to me, and they've asked me a whole bunch of differences between, paranormal, between ghosts and the different things. But what actually constitutes, or what would the definition of a cryptid be?
Cryptozoology is defined as cryptid is hidden, and zoology is the study of animals. So cryptozoology is the study of hidden animals. So it pertains to any animal that is thought to be extinct and could still exist, such as your plesiosaurs, your Mokele-mbembe, the dinosaurs, creatures like that. It is also things like the thylacine, or the Tasmanian tiger, which was hunted to extinction by humans, and there's still possibly species of those out there on Australia and Tasmania and stuff. It also pertains to creatures that we just don't know exist, like the Mothman or the Dogman. And these creatures that we do not have a fossil record for, we do not have any scientific backing for at all, but people are still seeing these things. So they fall into that category. And then, of course, it's just anything that, we haven't discovered, because every day we're discovering new and more species all over the world. And it's not just little species of frogs and insects. I mean, we're discovering brand new species of elephant that are out in the forests. There was the forest elephants that were recently just discovered as a subspecies of elephants. So every day we're discovering new species and new subspecies. So
yeah, it just goes to show, even though we feel like the world is small, it's bigger than it is, because if it was really as small as we thought it was, we would know every animal that was, in the forest, in the oceans. We would know it all, but we don't. So it makes it really interesting. And one more quick question before we take a quick commercial break is, the paranormal field is often thought of as a pseudoscience. And that's like a term that makes me cringe, because I don't view it that way. Do you hear that a lot with cryptozoology?
Yeah, there's actually a bunch of people, cryptozoologists, that feel that cryptozoology doesn't actually exist, because if you look at how things like the lowland gorilla and stuff were discovered, I mean, the gorilla wasn't even discovered until the 1930s as an actual species. So when you look at these creatures, we're just doing science. We're just doing zoology. It's just that all the citizen scientists are the ones out there doing it and doing the research and trying to get answers, instead of the paid scientific community. And so we slap this other name on it, because now it's considered mythology and folklore and stuff, instead of actual science. But if you take anything from, Sasquatch to the Loch Ness Monster, or etc., you name it, all of these creatures have the same mythology as, the lowland gorilla and the platypus, the okapi, all these creatures, the Komodo dragons that we now know exist, but were just myth and legend at the time. I mean, here's this giant, 8-foot long lizard that's running around Indonesia, and the natives all know that it exists, but there hasn't been this specimen, so we don't know that these Komodo dragons are an actual creature until we can bring one in. And that's zoology and that's science. But because you're talking about these creatures that are supposed to be folklore and legend, now you've put them in the realm of cryptozoology. So.
Yep. Yeah, you definitely need to come to Florida, because there's a lot of sightings and creatures in the Everglades alone.
There's a lot of creatures that shouldn't be down there to begin with in the Everglades.
That too.
Tigers and monkeys and other things that got released. So
I can't remember the name of it, but we're getting, actually not here, but where my parents live, they're like these big, long red and brown lizards that are coming up from the south. And it's and they're eating all the little lizards. It's like, come on. But anyway, we do have to take a quick commercial break. We'll be back in just a few minutes to continue talking. I do have a lot of questions. So if anyone has any questions for Barnaby or anything paranormal, feel free to put it in the comments and we will cover that. So we'll see you guys in just a few moments.
paranormal experience? The Haunted Rock Island YMCA Paracon, October 7th, from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. is just the event you're looking for. You will have the opportunity to investigate the Haunted Rock Island YMCA with ACG Paranormal. Visit with over 60 paranormal and metaphysical vendors from 8 or more states. And pre-order your t-shirts at dvinar@aol.com. Visit a psychic gallery reading, mediums, tea leaf reading, animal communication, dream interpretation, aura reading, tarot and oracle card readings, or get a Reiki healing. See a demonstration of the Estes method by Carly Bird. Presentations by Nick Simons and Aaron G. Thompson of 28 Days Haunted, Greg Bakken from Ghostbox Radio, and headliner Rick Hayes, along with many folks you'll see on Paraflix. Be sure to like and follow our sponsors: Paraflix, WLTK-DB Talk Radio LLC, Studio 6 Productions, Unturned Pages, and Ocean Eye Crystals. General admission is only $5, and all proceeds go directly to the Haunted Rock Island YMCA. For more information on the Haunted Rock Island YMCA Paracon and vendors, look for them on Facebook under Events.
Good morning and welcome back. I am joined with special guest Barnaby Jones, and we're talking about all things cryptozoology and any questions you guys might have. And while we were at break, my son came down and he actually asked me a question to ask you. And he wanted to know, because he plays Fallout 76, and it has a whole bunch of different cryptids in there, and he wanted to know about the Grafton monster. Is that a real monster, or was that something made up for Fallout?
Oh, the Grafton monster is an actual cryptid. It's probably most likely a Bigfoot. I'm familiar with it, but not enough to give any details on like the location and stuff. But I definitely would say that it is one of the Bigfoots. You know, before the internet, you don't have a lot of the communication, the readiness of this information. So when cities, towns, people are experiencing these different creatures, they slap a different name on it wherever you are. You know, like you have the skunk ape, you have the grass man, you have you know, Grafton monster, you have all these different creatures that all have very similar descriptions, but they're in different areas, so the different people don't know that, you know, 100 miles away they're experiencing the same thing, and they call it something else. So they slap this name on it, and typically it's based on where the creature's seen or a physical description of it, you know. And the Grafton monster is just another one of those creatures. You know, there's a lot of cryptids in Fallout. I hear a lot of Mothman and stuff being in there, and so
yeah, he said, what was it? Mothman, Dogman. He's ignoring me now. He has his headphones on. He's done for the day. But yeah, he always talks. And I actually think it's adorable. They made a little pop character of the Mothman from Fallout. And I think that's one of the cutest ones they've made. I did have the one question I did want to ask you, because I know a lot of people that I've talked to over the years when it comes to Bigfoot is there's a whole bunch of different theories on that. And one theory is that Bigfoot is from another dimension. Now, what are your thoughts on that? And if it were true, how do we find the portals that he would go in and out of?
Well, you know, until we have a body, a specimen of one of these creatures, you can never 100% pinpoint what they are, where they come from, how they interact, or anything. So my experience with these creatures would lead me to believe that they are flesh and blood. And I mean, I guess that doesn't necessarily mean that they can't be interdimensional or extraterrestrial of that nature. But I would have to say that I believe that they're probably more just a natural species that has evolved here and come up here. But you know, when you're talking about these creatures, they do have these supernatural abilities. You know, some people can say that they cloak, or that they you know, can change into these balls of light or energy and move around. And the more you think about that, there's a lot of other animals. Just recently, I'll give a shout out here to Matt Pruitt, who wrote this amazing book. I just had him on my show yesterday, and it's The Phenomenal Sasquatch, uncovering the, oh, now I'm going to forget what it's called. Matt Pruitt, The Phenomenal Sasquatch, on Amazon. Go look it up. But it's a great beginner book that goes into so much detail about these creatures. And he talks about the fact that they are a predator. And being that, they're an ambush predator. So when they're going out hunting, it is crucial to their survival and that they're not seen or heard, or that they can sneak up on their preys or ambush their prey and then disappear. So a lot of these things that we're encountering where they just kind of melt into the woods, well, that doesn't mean that they are supernatural or paranormal. It just means that they're very good at what they do, because it's critical to their survival to be able to do that. And so I think it has more to do with that than actually being interdimensional or stuff. But I've encountered a lot of things that I can't explain out in the woods, in things we've done and investigated. And I've gone to areas where I would believe that there are these portals or window areas that could possibly be gateways to other dimensions. There's strange energy there. There is this, multiple phenomenon where you have Bigfoot and UFOs and paranormal and all this stuff. And that, in fact, is where one of those locations is where we started CAPS. Down in the Burlington Woods, the Burlington Vortex, as they call it. And we went down there to just try and figure out why all of these phenomenon, there's lost time incidences. There's this strange mist that comes and engulfs people. I mean, the list goes on and on. You name the phenomenon in the paranormal realm, and it's been reported in this area. And for the most part, my team has been able to document a lot of these different things in that area. So is that because there's a portal there? Is that high energy there? Or is it just a coincidence that all this stuff has been pushed into that area from, like we were talking about earlier, the urban sprawling of people, and it's just kind of pushed it all into this little ball. Right down the road from there is also Bray Road, Elkhorn, Wisconsin, and then you have the Beast of Bray Road. So you have all this phenomenon and weirdness right in that one area. So is it a portal? Is it a gateway? Is it something akin to like Skinwalker Ranch, where you have this wormhole theory or whatever's in that area? I don't know. I mean, we've done a lot of research in there, and we're no closer to any answers than we were when we first started in 2019. So
that's the problem in the paranormal field. You get more questions than you do answers before you find anything out.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And the one question that's always brought up to me is if Bigfoot was, native to Earth type of thing, is how come we don't find a body? Like a dead one, because sometimes hunters will come across a dead deer in the forest that died of natural causes, and we don't find any bones. Why is there no evidence?
Well, there's a lot of evidence to back up Sasquatch, but you're right. We do not have a body. We typically don't have bones, and the reason for that is if these things are predatory, as I mentioned earlier. Animals that are sick and die of natural causes are going to go off on their own into an area, a cave, underground, deepest, darkest areas of the woods before they pass away, because they don't want to be attacked. They don't want to get picked off by other predators, and they just don't want to be found. They want to be left alone. So first of all, you're not going to have them just dying out in the open of natural causes. These things also aren't as plentiful as deer. There's what we believe is about one Sasquatch to every, I think it's 200 bears.
Okay.
So if you look at an area that has a lot of bear activity, you're when's the last time that you found a bear skeleton out in the woods either? You never hear of that. So for every one bear skeleton, you're going to need 200 bear skeletons to find one Sasquatch, because they're just not plentiful. And so you have a very small group of these creatures out there to begin with. Now then, these things, if they are primates, if they are related to us in any way, look at the lifespan of a human. So you have, 40 to 80 years that one of these things is going to live. Sound kind of like the human species and other primates and stuff. So if one of these is dying every 80 years or even 50 years, we'll say, now you have a very small number of these dying once every 50 years. They're going to go hide, and you're just not going to find them. Okay. Now, if one of these does die out in the open where you could find it, the chances of that body still being there in order for you to find it just laying there is also very slim, because nature retakes all this stuff very quickly. You have a lot of animals that are going to come and scavenge it, from birds to coyotes to raccoons, that are going to eat the meat off of those bones in the matter of a couple days to a week at most. Then even the bones themselves, you have creatures like deer, porcupines, and other animals that consume that for the calcium and the marrow that are in there, because they need that in their diet. It's just part of the natural realm. So for any of us to find one of these things, it has to be this whole scheme of just perfectly stars aligning in order to find this body. The only way that we're going to find is, like if a semi is driving down the road and accidentally hits one of these creatures.
Or a deer hunter accidentally shoots one.
Correct. And then a lot of the times that people have come forward and said that they have shot these things, they say that they're very human-like, and they're worried that they are going to get in trouble, so they don't want anything to do with it, and they leave the body. And again, poof, now nature takes its course, and in a matter of a couple days, this thing is just gone no matter what.
When you were talking, it was like I almost had this vision of when you were talking about going into caves and hiding. It's like maybe we don't see, going to the Journey to the Center of the Earth from Jules Verne. It's like maybe the Sasquatches have found how to get to the center of the Earth, and we only see them when they come to the surface.
It's a possibility. There's so many cave systems. People have pointed out the fact that if you overlay the cave systems of the United States over the top of like missing persons, and even as far as Sasquatch activity, that these cave systems and the Sasquatch and all that kind of line up in a weird pattern. So it's possible.
Yeah, it's just like Red Rock Canyon. There's a lot of hikers that go missing. And, and it's possible that place is huge and there's a lot of hidden crevices and, rocks, and it's at the foothills of the mountains before you head over to California. And a lot of people, because it's so close to Area 51, are like, it's because of, the aliens in the area. And then also there are petroglyphs that show strange creatures. So it's like, what could be lurking, I wouldn't go there at night anyway. It gets so dark, but the hikers that go at night, who knows what they could run into.
Sounds like fun. Let's go.
Yeah, I know. I have this eerie photo of one of the canyons going through Red Rock, and it was early in the morning and it was still foggy out. So there's like over the valley part of the area, it's like this big mist over, and it's like, ooh, what could come out of that? But yeah, beautiful place though. Some of these places are gorgeous. I can see why the Bigfoots hang around.
Yep.
Yeah, and could you imagine a Bigfoot, like a city expands and all of a sudden a Bigfoot's roaming around? This is like a movie, Hollywood movie, but Bigfoot starts roaming around the city.
You have cougars and wolves and stuff come in and walk down the city streets, and that, it's very possible. There's been reports of them stealing garbage out of dumpsters out behind malls on the edge of towns and stuff. So they're definitely around.
Interesting. It makes me rethink because I grew up in the country, so up in northern Illinois. So it's like, what was in our backyard that night that I felt uncomfortable with the blinds open?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And Jamie Lynn is joining us. She says, good morning to both of us. And then Courtney brought up the Grand Canyon too. Yeah, the Grand Canyon has a lot of different things. And Red Rock is beautiful, but never at night. It's very dark there at night. I know the park system closes, but there are areas of the park that you can go through at night. And yeah, I really do miss, I'm drawing a blank on it, but there was that little cowboy village that they ended up shutting down to build homes. And it was restored. It was on Ghost Adventures. I'm like completely drawing a blank. It'll come to me before the end of the show, but yeah, they're expanding out there, even like bordering right up to the park.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of sad. I don't want to know what was hiding in the woods. Yeah, no, I don't. So, and my son just kind of came up with me with another one. And to me, this sounds like a fake monster, but he wants to know the Snallygaster, I think is what he said.
Yeah. I'm familiar with it. I don't know a lot about that one.
Yeah, he throws a lot of questions at me that gets me thinking.
Yeah. I mean, I can tell you this. It's definitely an interesting creature. It's very kind of like an amalgamation, a hodgepodge of different stuff. I focus a lot on my research and that of where I'm working and places I'm going and stuff. So I'm familiar with a lot of these, and I can't.
You need to travel more. No,
I'm not familiar with the Snallygaster and what it's supposed to be, or where it is. I know it's out on like the East Coast, I believe, that area. But I don't know much about that one. I'm sorry.
Okay. I'll have to let him know. Yeah. He's always giving me questions because he's been investigating with me since he was 15 and he's 19 now. So, and he's always throwing strange questions out there. I know when he was on an investigation with one of my team members when we were still in Vegas, the guy's like asked, unusual questions. And he's like, okay, so he, in the spirit box, he asked, is a tomato a fruit or a vegetable? And he actually got an answer. I think it was fruit. And then he asked, is the earth round or flat? And, so he's very creative when he comes up with his questions. and he's always throwing theories at me. And I'm sorry for all the banging behind me. He's going through the pantry and I'm right next to the kitchen. He's hungry. But which area of the country do you think would be the most populated by cryptids?
Well, it depends what you're looking for, because you look out in California, you have a lot of the Northern California, Washington, Oregon, all the way up into Canada there. The Pacific Northwest is very, very squatchy, very Bigfooty. But again, Bigfoot creatures have been reported in all 50 states except Hawaii. And the reason for that is Hawaii is an island. It's a volcanic island. It actually, sprang up out of the ocean. It was never connected via landmass to any of the other continents. So anywhere in the United States, you can find Bigfoot. But I always got to go with West Virginia. West Virginia and Ohio have just a ton of cryptids. I mean, that whole area down there, the Appalachians, it's got, Bigfoots and the Flatwoods Monster and Mothman and, you just got this whole slew of weird creatures and stories and stuff that are coming out of West Virginia and that general area. So I've always thought that was very weird. And again, with Ohio too, you have Bigfoots and Dogman and lake monsters and stuff. So every state's got its own. I mean, you name it, they pretty much all have, the main ones.
Yeah, I know. I was when I was in college studying photography, I went to Marshall University for a semester, and we were studying photography out in the woods and the mountains and nature landscapes and all of that stuff, because it's a beautiful area out there. And there was always some parts of where we went was always like, yeah, this isn't comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
It was weird. And it's one of those, I wish I knew now, or wish I knew then what I know now about paranormal, because I would have taken my photography differently.
Mm-hmm.
I was already into it then, but just wasn't as into it as I am now. And the knowledge back then, we didn't have the internet.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, definitely some strange feelings out there. So if someone wanted to get into studying cryptozoology,
Mm-hmm.
what would you suggest they do first?
Read. There's
Read.
a lot of great books out there. Lauren Coleman, John Green, Matt Pruitt's book that he just released again. That one is amazing. Sasquatch Legend Meets Science by Jeff Meldrum is a great book. Grover Krantz book. A lot of those. As far as that, stay away from TV. TV is an interesting avenue of entertainment to get you interested in it. And I got to admit, I absolutely love Skinwalker Ranch and Expedition Bigfoot. I think that they're great shows. And they do a lot with science and the investigating. But for the most part, a lot of your other shows out there that are just, Bigfooting and cryptoing and stuff are for entertainment. And even the diehard researchers and scientists that are out there working on this, TV's made for entertainment. It's not showing you what you need to know. So get out there, go to conventions, go to conferences, listen to presentations from people that are in the field. And most importantly, if you're interested, go out there and look, because you're never going to find any of these creatures sitting on your couch. Be safe. Tell people where you're going. Bring water, bring food, bring first aid stuff, flares, GPS, just in case, and get a good idea of where you're going, the trails and what to expect, because, you want to be safe out there. But again, you're never going to find Sasquatch. You're never going to find the lake monsters. You're never going to find any of that sitting on your couch.
Right. Yeah. And I always tell people go through during the day. Just to check it out. So that way, this pathway is going to drop off, or this pathway runs alongside, a cliff. The last thing you need to do is go at night and, stumble upon that.
You always want to scout your trails and your locations during the day. You can go in during the night, as long as it's not private property or something, or especially if you have access to private property and permission to be out there, know your area, because a lot of the times your private properties, again, with permission, have a lot of activity because no one else is going out there, because they are private properties. These creatures know that they're safe because they know the habits of the people that own those properties. They know when they come home, they know when they leave, they know when they're out there hunting, they know when they're not going to be there. And that's very important, because now when you throw this wrench into that pattern of activity, they don't expect it, and you're gonna be able to stumble upon those things, whereas you wouldn't otherwise.
Right.
Another great avenue is rivers, because the rivers, they're so noisy when they're flowing and stuff that it covers up a lot of the sounds that you're making. So if you can go out during dusk and kind of like go down a nice river, just kind of take it easy without a motorboat or something, but like a canoe or kayak, you're going to have a better chance of just accidentally seeing one of these things. And that's what it's going to be. It's going to be an accident. Everything needs water. The most common sighting of any of these creatures for Bigfoot wise is just roadside crossings. So always have a dash cam, because, if everyone that had seen one of these things had a dash cam and would share it, we'd have a lot of these creatures.
Yep. Yeah. Or a body camera, or, GoPro or something like that. So it's one of those things, you can document it all you want, verbally or written or anything like that, but nothing beats having it actual physical evidence of some type.
Absolutely.
And one question I do have is, you see a lot of people talk about going out and doing the mating calls to attract Bigfoot. Have you ever done that?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
You never know what you're saying with these things, so it's kind of just trying things. We've had really good luck with call blasting geese. And we do it during the fall when the geese are coming in to nest in that. We believe that these creatures come in, and in the Rhinelander area, they were throwing rocks at the
I think
geese.
I froze.
There you go.
Mhm.
And they were throwing rocks at the geese in these little backwaters of the Pelican River and hunting them. So in the fall, when the geese are starting to move and migrate, there's your food source. So by
Mhm.
call blasting these geese, we're bringing them in because we're basically saying your dinner's here, and that worked very well. You got to keep in mind that, you know, if these things are animals, they're you know, anything has to eat, anything has to
Mhm.
drink. And when you keep that in mind, you have a lot better chance of trying to find them or get evidence than just going out into a random woods and, you know, hollering and banging on trees and stuff. You gotta be smart about it, and
Mhm.
try and, you know, put yourself in their shoes of these animals and figure out where they're going to be and why they're going to be there.
Mhm. Yeah. And then when it comes to, I know we're sticking to Bigfoot, but that seems to be the most common topic a lot of people ask questions about. But do you think, like, say, a female Bigfoot, if there's two sexes, would come up upon, let's say, like an injured child that tripped and fell in the woods? Do you think she would be, you know, like, ooh, lunch? Or would she be caring and kind of like almost like Tarzan the baby and bring it in to nurture it and help it?
There's been a lot of, you know, David Paulides' work, Missing 411 and stuff, where these people go missing out in the woods, children, and they say that this huge bear helps them.
Mhm.
And there's been other people that have, you know, encountered these Sasquatches and almost like being led by them or pushed by them back to where they
Mhm.
belong. You know, there's a lot of reports of that. So I would say that they're more. Again, it depends on the food. If
Mhm.
if there's food is plentiful, if not, you know, wanting for food and needing you out of their area, I think they'd be more inclined to try and help. And as far as, you know, not threatening them with a gun or out there hunting and stuff,
Mhm.
all with the situation at hand. And when you have those situations with lost child, again, your nurturing nature of these, you know, look at a lot of your gorillas and primates as they are
Mhm.
very nurturing and caring for animals, kittens, and other, you know,
Mhm.
creatures that they come in contact with in captivity there. So I would think that these things would be at least try and be helpful if that situation arose.
Mhm. Yep. Okay. And then Courtney's funny. Kids could be cryptos, lol, sleep and eat and hide. Yep. And then she says there was a story these guys were stuck on Mount Everest and they said a large animal, bear-like, will guide them to safety.
Mhm.
Yep. They're the ones to watch over the land. Yep, exactly. So talking about some of the most populated areas, what are your thoughts regarding the different triangles around the world, like the Bermuda Triangle, Alaska Triangle, and then the Nevada Triangle? I know in Nevada, of course, the triangle has more UFO activity than other areas. And so what are your thoughts with these, you know, mysterious triangles contributing to the heavy populations of these cryptids?
Yeah, again, like I said earlier, with the whole window areas, the John Keel, you know,
Mhm.
thought process there, these areas, it could be that there's something naturally going on that is causing this stuff. I mean, you look at the electromagnetic, you know, field in that this is going to disrupt everything. Everything is energy. And
Mhm.
if for whatever reason this high EMF in those areas, these triangles, you could possibly have something like that that's distorting your electronics, you're messing with your GPSs, your compasses even, and people are just getting lost, crashing, what have you in these areas, you know, land or sea or Bermuda Triangle. Um, you never know what's out there. I mean,
Mhm.
it's not something that is 100% studyable, you know, because it's
Mhm.
not repeatable. Every
Right.
time you go through the Bermuda Triangle or, you know, the Bridgewater Triangle, the Alaskan Triangle, you name it, you don't have the same phenomenon happen.
Mhm.
Let's take Skinwalker Range, for example. And again, here's another triangle for those
Yep.
of you who show. You have this area that they're focusing a lot of their attention on that, you know, they call the triangle, not because it's paranormal like the Bermuda Triangle, but it's literally the shape of a triangle on
Mhm.
the property. And but you have this phenomenon there, and it's not always present. They have to somehow get ways to trigger it, whether that be natural or triggered by, you know, shooting rockets into it or projecting a certain frequency at it. And if you have these elsewhere, like they're doing on Beyond Skinwalker Ranch now, the other
Mhm.
show, you're looking at these different areas and trying to put the same scientific principles behind it and seeing if these things react in the same way. That's science. Science is repeatable. Science is
Mhm.
predictable. Science, you take a theory, you put it towards it, and you see it if it sticks. And when you're looking at these different areas, that's what you're getting. You want that predictability because then you're looking at something that is natural, is naturally occurring, and is predictable, and you know you can wrap your head around a little bit better.
Mhm. Yep.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I absolutely love the Skinwalker Ranch stuff. I've actually gotten to go out there and do some investigating on the property next to it, which is the UFO Valley Ranch. They do
Yep.
Mesa tours up there on UTVs. They take you out there. You can see the whole property, and then they also do camp there. And
Mhm.
I got an opportunity to spend the night out there with them and do an investigation on their property.
Mhm.
And so it was very interesting. And that whole area, I mean, you watch the very first episode of Skinwalker Ranch. Travis Taylor goes up there with the
Mhm.
tri-field meter, and it gets all wonky and weird. And that is exactly what happened to me up there. It
Mhm.
the same thing. And you know, that's science. It's predictability.
Right.
And I've worked with this equipment enough that it shouldn't do that. You
Mhm.
know, it doesn't do it anywhere else. And here it is. You go to that property, and it repeats the same thing that happened with him. It was very
Right.
fascinating, very good experiment there.
Yep. Yeah. And I'm always, I guess I call them trolls, but I'm always harassed whenever I try to talk about science and the scientific method in the paranormal field, whether it's cryptids, ghosts, or whatnot. And everybody's like, well, you can't use science in the field because it's not predictable, because you can't ask a ghost to talk to you on command. Well, I think it's all about shifting your mindset. It's like, okay, you did this experiment. What type of EMF readings did you get? You did this experiment. Did you get an interaction, regardless of whether it's the same interaction or not? Did something happen? And I think it's all about shifting our mindset to actually make the science work for the field.
I actually am working on a presentation that I'll be doing next year on the science of the paranormal, and it actually is very, very science based because when I go out in the field, I look for evidence, and a personal experience is great. I've had tons of them, but when you go forward and you say, this is what happened to me, people are like, okay, it's a story. No one has to believe you, and I don't expect anyone to believe some of the weird stuff that's happened to me because it is beyond the realm of weird, but it's true. It happened to me. I was there. So I try and look at everything scientifically and look for the evidence that I can document with equipment, with technology, and show you in a video or audio format of this is what's happening. And my whole presentation, it's just astonishing to me that everyone that's paranormal investigator goes out with the EMF meters, right? The little black wand thing with the lights at the top and it lights up.
K2 meters.
Exactly. Why do we use those?
Yeah.
I know because I have a whole presentation on why we use a K2 meter, why the electromagnetic field has anything at all to do with paranormal, whether you believe in ghosts or not. There's a reason why that we have chosen to use this equipment,
Yep.
and that's what my new presentation will be next year is, just explaining that whole phenomenon of, the electromagnetic field and how it works and why ghosts have electromagnetic field. So,
yeah. And that's the biggest problem is people are using these tools and not knowing
Mhm.
how they work, what they're used for, or even, when you get a response, it's automatically, ooh, it's a ghost. But like you said, how do you know it's a ghost?
Mhm.
You need to know how the equipment works to know that the reactions you're getting with your equipment is paranormal based and not natural.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. EMF meters will go off for, a lot of reasons. If you have it in a house or, a business or wherever you happen to be investigating, if there's electricity, if there's, cell service, if there's any of this stuff, it can trigger the EMF meter. So you have to know what's around you and what's triggering it before you can to get a clear area where you can get those results. And it's 100% possible to do that, but you have to be aware. Same as REM pods and any of this other equipment, tri-field meters. You have to know what it does, why this equipment works to begin with, because EMF meters, K2 meters were around prior to paranormal and ghost hunting. Like they were brought into ghost hunting. That isn't something that was, designed by the ghost hunting crew to do this. They had a purpose. They had a purpose, outside of this, and to take that and use it for what we do now. I mean, a lot of the stuff we do, look at spirit boxes and it's a radio, had a purpose prior to us using it for the paranormal. And why do we do that? Why do we believe that this stuff works? So.
Right. Yep. Yeah. It's all about knowing it. And then the other thing, of course, is use shielded batteries like Duracells or Energizers, because we were on an investigation and we really thought we were getting intelligent responses with the K2 meter. And it turned out that the investigator, his batteries died. So he just grabbed what he had and put it in there. And it was, we'd say something and it would respond. So it really looked to us like it was intelligent response, but then it started going off and we're like, we thought it was giving us Morse code until he got home and realized the batteries he put in weren't shielded. And it was like, there went that whole investigation, the whole section we just had to, ditch because we, even if there was something intelligent there, we couldn't prove it now because we were using the wrong batteries.
And use a battery tester when you first investigation. Make sure all your batteries are fresh, because if they're not, you're going to get readings, you're going to get faulty equipment and misinformation. So
yep. And not a lot of people realize that. They think they can, or even recharge your batteries in between investigations, because you don't, just sitting there, it'll drain slowly on its own, and not everyone realizes that. Okay. Courtney said, back to the story on Mount Everest. The men who told that story with the Yeti-like encounter, they didn't show their faces when they were talking about it. So yeah, that could be interesting. So, but trying to think. We went through a lot of the questions quick. So if anyone has any questions, help me out here. We've covered all of my questions. But are there any type of experiments that you guys are working on now as a team, or you yourself, that you can share?
We have the Hayden property up in Upper Michigan. It is 80 acres of private property. In 2012, the owners, Craig and Barb Salk, used the property as hunting, and they got a series of 3 trail camera photos. The middle one has what's purported as a Bigfoot in the picture. So these pictures got sent into Finding Bigfoot, and Finding Bigfoot came out and did an episode. People saw the episode, they wanted to see the property and investigate. And Craig opened up the property as a kind of a museum or, a tourist spot to show people the evidence and get people interested to share their stories and give them a comfortable place to do it. And we started investigating up there in 2020. And Craig has now passed away, but we continue the research up there. And we have done so many experiments up there. We have a whole series on YouTube. Our YouTube channel is Wisconsin Caps, and it's called Finding Hayden. And each episode is about a half hour long, and it goes really in depth into each one of the experiments that we've done out there. The first episode, I believe it is, we talk about peanut butter jars. So we hung a peanut butter jar in an area where we thought that these creatures were, and left it hanging there. And a couple weeks later, we came back, or a week later, I can't remember exactly the timeline right now, but we came back and the peanut butter jar was gone. Now I used paracord to tie this up. And what happened was, when I was hanging this specific jar, we started getting whoops coming from the woods. So I kind of got distracted, and instead of I had punched a hole in the other jar lid, or the lip of the jar, and ran it through. So this one I just put a loop around it, and we came back. That jar is completely gone. It wasn't on the ground. It wasn't in the area at all. There was no evidence of this jar. So the second one, we took that loop down. We put up a new loop, and this one I punched a hole in it, put the paracord through, hung it back in the same spot, came back. That one is completely gone. And the rope is just like cut. Not cut, but, messed up.
Yeah.
Okay. Again, that jar is nowhere to be found. Completely disappeared. So the third one we hung up, I electrical taped a GPS tracker to the bottom of the jar. And we taped that whole thing up, put it back out there, came back, and the jar is literally licked clean.
It knew.
Hanging in the tree. Now, the other two jars, we have no idea what happened to at all. This jar, we have video and trail camera photos of like squirrels and raccoons coming and hanging down, scooping out the peanut butter and eating it. They literally licked that jar clean in a matter of like with these creatures.
Yes.
So if that would have been the case with the first two jars, we would have had video, picture, etc., because we're running the same experiment. So why don't we have all this footage of these creatures licking out the jars and stuff? To this day, we have yet to find either of those two missing jars. There's actually 3 jars. The other one was in a different location. So there's 3 peanut butter jars on that property that have completely disappeared. Now that doesn't sound weird, but if something like a squirrel or a raccoon would have done this, that jar would have been on the ground and just kind of like laying somewhere.
Right.
Even off in the woods, even if wind took it or what have you. We have scoured that entire property in the spring and the winter when all the grass is gone, all the ground cover is gone. Those jars are nowhere on that property. We have yet to find them.
Yeah, that means they're smart because it knew not to take that one. And I was going to say, if you didn't have video camera on the one that stuck around, I would have taken that for DNA testing.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
to find out what licked it clean.
All of the stuff that we took down, we used gloves and took them down and put them in a bag and secured all the evidence and stuff from the other ones as well. But yeah, no idea. But we've done a lot of stuff like that on the property. We've put out other different things, rocks with little dots of paint on them. And we had Hot Wheels cars out there. And we had this area that was a stump in our second episode that we put out. And the stump has a hole in the middle. And on the front rim of the stump, we put 3 cars and some rocks and some stuff. And when we came back, the one car is on the back side of the stump on the ground. So something with hands had to have picked it up and put it behind the stump. Because if it would have been knocked off by a squirrel or any other small animal, it would have either fallen forward off the stump onto the ground or fallen into the center of the stump. We tried for about 20-30 minutes to get that thing to fall where it was. But we could not get to recreate where that thing was, how it happened and stuff. It was just very interesting. We've had a lot of encounters out there. Last year we tried a pheromone chip experiment. They have these chips that are for Sasquatch. They are human and primate pheromones, and they reek very bad. And we hung them around this area of the property that was completely surrounded by like 2-track dirt road, and we put up trail cameras on time lapse and motion sensor so that anything that came around that area of the property would either be time lapse taken or triggered. And we did that for an entire summer. As far as I've gone through a lot of the pictures and stuff, because there's a lot, we haven't captured anything interesting, but we do a lot of experiments. This weekend we're going to be up there setting up a brand new experiment with the shooting lanes on the property, because they were hunters, and we're going to be putting up a security camera and some other stuff to monitor these lanes that basically cut across the entire property. So,
And on the missing peanut butter jars, did you guys have a camera on that one and it just didn't work during the time, or did you not put a camera up for the first two?
there was 2 cameras on each of the jars, one
Okay.
for each side, and no pictures.
No picture.
No pictures of what happened. One picture it's there, one picture it's gone. It did take pictures, but not of whatever took the jars.
Okay. And again, that leads me to believe that they're more intelligent than we think they are, because it's like, how did it evade? You know, does it sit there and count? Okay, the picture is going to go off now. I'm going to go get the jar before the next one snaps and get it. And then it didn't take the one with the GPS. They know more than we think they do.
Absolutely.
And that's from them watching us, probably.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's just,
They study us like we study them.
yeah, it's a lot of work out there and a lot of experiments, and you know, each little thing leads us to something else, and we try something new. But yeah, finding Hayden on YouTube on our channel, Wisconsin Caps. You can see all that stuff. All the links are at wisconsincaps.com.
Yeah, and I think Todd shared the link earlier, and I'll make sure I share the link as well on my page. And when you get, I'm sure a lot of people send you photos of, you know, like I get a lot of orb photos. You get a lot of photos.
A lot of bugs.
A lot of bug photos. You probably get a lot of photos sent to you, either asking you to analyze it or, hey, check out this evidence that I've captured. What is your process to either prove or disprove the photo's real, wasn't faked, and all of that?
For the most part, a lot of our stuff that we get is, you know, like footprints and stuff like that. So, I mean, if it's a footprint, if you fake it, you fake it. It's not like, you know, it's not like the most amazing picture of a Sasquatch that we've ever seen. So it doesn't really matter if it's fake or not. It's just evidence, you know. And who knows what made the footprint, you know what I mean? But a lot of the paranormal stuff that we get sent, I have spent a lot of time staring at security cameras, black and white, infrared, and so on. And you get to know what things are because you see them being made or done. As far as like spider webs, you get a lot of those, and people are like, "Oh my gosh, what is this?" You know, it's waving around and it's moving. It's causing light shimmers and stuff. And I'm like, that's a spider web. That's all it is.
Yeah.
You know, bugs are a big one too, that, you know, and you have to have good video editing, and you can zoom in and slow it down and freeze frame it to the point where you can see legs and wings. And then I just screen cap that and send it back to them and go, it's a bug. Here you go. But yeah, there have been a lot of videos that we can't debunk. And stuff that we've gone out to investigate. One of our big investigations for the paranormal wise is our episode documenting fear on YouTube. And this family was having a lot of problems with different things in their house. There was a plant in their living room that literally levitated. They were taking pictures of things and stuff would show up in those pictures. They were taking videos and you would hear voices in these videos that weren't there. They literally covered the mirror in their kitchen with aluminum foil so that they couldn't look in it. They barricaded off the upstairs of their duplex and wouldn't go up there. They gave it to whatever this entity was. And they were in the process of moving out. They were going to put all their stuff into storage and go to a hotel because they just couldn't take it anymore. They called our team in because they wanted to know, is this really happening or is it just us? We want you to, you know, validate what we're experiencing. And so we came in, we spent the entire night there and threw everything we had at it. And we got a little bit of evidence there. And we're like, well, but this isn't really what they're experiencing. And when we went back to analyze our evidence, we started getting more and more stuff in there, like these full conversations of entities upstairs when no one's there, no one's outside, and we have this whole conversation, and you can hear it in the episode where there's two voices, and one says, "Hurt him, no, hurt him now, no," and then it growls, and it's this whole thing going on there, and you don't know what to make of that. So we did our best to try and help them and get them the help that they needed outside of what we could provide. But they did move out. They moved to a different house, and we lost contact with them for a little while. But I managed to talk to them again lately. But yeah, it's really interesting, some of the stuff that you can't explain it. You just can't.
Yep. And do you think the popularity of Ring cameras and home security cameras has not so much increased paranormal and cryptid activity, but has made it more known?
The more eyes out there, the more cameras that are out there, the more you're going to catch, and a lot of that stuff, when you have night vision cameras and infrared cameras and stuff like your security cameras, your Ring cameras, there's lag in what you're seeing, and sometimes that lag distorts what you're looking at too much, and it appears to be something that isn't. I just watched a video online of this lady down in Florida who said that she had a baby dinosaur run through her yard, and it's a very interesting video, but it's so smear lagged that it could just be a cat or raccoon, possum, some other small animal. Or, it does kind of look like an upright running lizard with a tail. But because the image is, not very high quality, you really can't tell. And that's another problem with a lot of these videos and evidence and stuff that's out there, is because people just, maybe they're not familiar with all the animals that are in their area. They're not familiar with what's out there and how things move and how things look, because, if you don't realize there's no possum living in your backyard because you never see it during the day, and now all of a sudden this thing comes running across your front yard at night, well, you have no idea what this thing is. And you have this very common animal, very common thing that you just don't know. And a lot of people have that. I live in the city. We had coyotes running down my street. You never know what's going to happen. You never know what's out there. And it's just something that's out of place.
Yep. Yeah. And I just kind of lost where I was going to go with that one, but I had something that I completely forgot.
Well,
it's been a long day, a long week already. But getting back to the video cameras, I see a lot of things get shared a lot on, of course, in the different Facebook groups and everything. I think they're called night walkers, where it's just the two legs and it kind of looks like they're not even walking like a human, but kind of like waddling back and forth. What are your thoughts on those?
The Fresno night crawlers, those guys.
That's it.
Yep. Yeah, so those guys I do know, but I don't know. I have. I'll tell you this. I had an incident at my house, and I came home one day and I stepped on something on the porch, and I looked back, and it's literally a pile of guts on my porch. And being in with what we do with the paranormal and cryptids and stuff, this is a very bad omen of entrails laying on your front porch. And I'm thinking, okay, either somebody's messing with me or something is not happy with something I've done. So the first thing I did is I went back and started looking at my security cameras, and to the best I can figure, a hawk took a rabbit, flew over my front porch, and this stuff fell because the rabbit was on my back roof of the garage. So I'm thinking that's where the guts came from. Pretty normal, pretty mundane, nothing, out of the ordinary, but it took a lot of work and research and to figure out this is what happened. And eventually a couple weeks later, I found the rabbit on the roof too. So putting that all together, I think that's what happened. But while I'm looking through security cameras, I find what looks like the Fresno crawler, those legs running across my front sidewalk, back up my sidewalk to my house, and back in front of my house. And I have no idea what this thing is. It is the same night that this other stuff appeared. And then I have later on that night, I also have what I refer to as like a Lego block, because it's this square thing with like lights in it. Well, not, I don't want to say like lights, but it looks like if you took a Lego brick and you stood it on end. That's what it looks like moving across my front yard. And if this was like a reflection or something, I would see it more often. Right. It's not any other time in my videos. And it just moves very weird. If you watch some of our episodes in the opening credits, theme song, whatever, that little running pants thing is part of that episode, and you can see it. I don't, it's not going to be a whole episode because I don't know what to do with it, but it was this footage. And I have no idea what that thing is, but I've never seen it appear again. And it just, and you can watch it like move. And yeah, so I got one of those right here in Wisconsin. So
yeah, I mean, those have always, they've creeped me out. There's something about them that are creepy, but they're also interesting. It's like, where, get a closer look. Where are their eyes? Where's their body? It's just like a pair of legs walking around with two eyeballs on top.
A pair of pants, yeah.
You're right. It's always, but I remember my question. Earlier we were talking about dinosaurs and different things. I know we've captured what we think might be some type of dinosaur growl. And it was ironic because we were investigating a museum and we were in the dinosaur room where they actually had fossils and, artifacts from archaeological digs and all of that. But a lot of questions that kids ask me, because I do a lot of family friendly events that where we kind of explain the paranormal to the kids.
Oh, I know where
and kids will ask me 101 questions like, are there ghost fish? My favorite one is, do ghosts poop? And another one that one kid asked me is, how come we don't see dinosaur ghosts? Like, go out in your backyard and see a big, stegosaurus walking through your backyard, and it's, faded and, see-through. And what are your thoughts on that?
Oh, that's amazing. I knew that's where this was going to go. Yeah, I mean, my friend Christopher Noel, he is a researcher out in Vermont, and he does a lot of work with Bigfoot, and he has a theory that some of these sightings of Bigfoot that people say vanish into thin air, you're actually seeing the ghost of a Bigfoot. Because if you can have a human ghost, why can't you have these ghosts of other creatures? You have like the spectral deer that vanish into the thin air and stuff like that. People have seen those. So if you have ghosts of Sasquatch, you have ghosts of deer, you have ghosts of people, why couldn't you have ghosts of dinosaurs or other creatures? And I don't know. I've always wondered that too. And I don't know. I don't know. I'll
have to find that clip and send it to you, because I have people like throw every question possible to me. Oh, you were holding the digital voice recorder and your stomach growled. Well, no, I know from that investigation the digital voice recorder was 6 feet away from the nearest person, sitting on a display shelf. So nobody was around it. They're like, well, someone moved a chair, and it's like, nope, we were all standing there. And unfortunately, this location wouldn't let us bring video in. So we can't prove everything that we're saying, but it's still a very interesting clip. And that's why I don't share it often as evidence, because we don't have that video to prove nobody was near it and all of that stuff. But yeah. And my son has a theory on Bigfoot. He joked, he said it jokingly, but it got me thinking, is what if it's the spirit of a caveman? And that the Bigfoot is actually just a ghost.
Well, the problem with that, though, is that a lot of the archaeological finds, a lot of the bone specimens and stuff that we have of the caveman, the Neanderthals, those are very small. Yeah. And when people are seeing these Sasquatch creatures and stuff, they're anywhere between 6 and 8 feet tall. So I think that kind of rules those guys out, because
Yeah.
I don't think ghosts are bigger than, you know, their physical forms. But
Right. Yeah.
know.
And, you know, Bigfoots could also be the next evolution of humans because, you know, over this, you know, like you said, cavemen were smaller, and we seem to, like, every so many centuries or centuries or millennia, we grow and we're taller than we were.
It's possible.
So, yeah, you never know. And going back to when you find various evidence, when you find the footprints, do you take castings of the footprints? Do you collect any type of DNA sample? This is the scientist in me. Any DNA samples, fur samples?
We've never found any hair or any fur samples. And we do cast anything that is castable.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the times when you find footprints, let's say that they're, you know, barely 1/8 inch deep in very soft, like rock, gravel area, or in grass. So you can see the depressions in the grass very clearly, smashed down in the grass. But unfortunately, there's no differential of space in the ground itself that would lend to casting. So we do take pictures, we do take measurements of every cast, or I'm sorry, not every cast, every footprint that we find, as well as other information. I mean, like I said, everywhere we go is videoed. So we have, you know, you can watch us walk up on these prints. You can watch and see the documentation of how far apart that they are from each stride length, the rights, the lefts, etc. We got a lot of evidence like that out of Rhinelander, Wisconsin, where we were literally able to track these creatures through an entire woods. And like I said, there was three different creatures there, and we have a lot of stuff. But unfortunately, we only were able to cast, I think, like 3 or 4 good prints, and even those didn't even turn out that well because they were just not. You know, a lot of the times when you find prints, they're not the pristine patty footprint that everyone thinks of, the, you know, the 1/2 inch deep impressions in the ground. Right. And, you know, if they are in nice, good mud substrate, you know, ground, when your foot comes down into that, as it comes up, it pulls mud with it. So what you're left with is a general outline of a foot that's all just macky. It's not a pretty foot like if you just tried to leave a footprint, you know. It doesn't look like these, you know, the beautiful casts that everyone's familiar with, because that's what they look like. They're a mess. They really are. And we have a casting from the Hayden Adventure property, and we sell copies of this out at the conventions and that, because it was literally the only footprint that we've been able to cast out there. You can clearly see the heel and up to the mid-tarsal break of the foot. The foot kind of bends in the middle of it to add for stability and easy of walking and stuff. Our feet do not do that. But you can see up to about that mid-tarsal break, and then you can see some of the toes that are imprinted. But the rest of the foot is just like ripped up mud, and it's just these divots of the ground. It's not pretty. It doesn't look like, you know, these normal footprint casts, but that's what it is.
Right.
We also were able to cast a handprint up in Rhinelander, and you have part of the palm, and then the thumb is indented. Sorry, the thumb is indented way down, and then the hand kind of goes off to the side. It's hard to do in 3D here, but it's about I want to say 11 inches across from finger to finger. Like, it's a big handprint. Okay, but it's also very it runs the same as some of the other purported handprints that are out there. I have another hand cast, the knuckle print from the Blue Ridge, and our handprint matches up with the scale of what that print would have been. So,
Yep. And what was the biggest foot size you guys have seen?
I want to say it was 17 or 18 inches was the longest foot. And they're on average about 8 inches wide.
Okay. Yeah, that's one big Nike.
Yes. Yeah.
And have you guys ever come across a nest or what you think might be a nest for a Bigfoot?
No. The closest thing that we've kind of found was what we call like a hunting blind, where it's kind of like woven together to hide something behind it. We found those a couple occasions, but nothing that they would be like sleeping in or denning in or anything like that. They're all more vertically based around an area. But we have come across a couple of them.
Okay. And actually going back to the habits of Bigfoot, do you think that they are family oriented? Like they, mother, father, child, and they all stick together? Or do you think it's like once the babies are born, if they do have babies regularly, do they just raise them to a certain point like most animals and let them go off on their own?
I don't have personal evidence aside from those 3 in Rhinelander. So giving that in mind, the Rhinelander prints, I can never remember this. The smallest one was 9 inches, and then it was 10 and 14 or 10 and 12. I can never remember. There was 4 different prints that we taken out of the Rhinelander area. 3 of them were together in where I talked about earlier. And then 20 miles up the road, we actually got a 4th size print on a different property that guy had cast. And so I can never remember which of the 3 that go together, but 3 distinct sizes leading from the smallest one being 9. And I believe that the largest one was either 12 or 14 inches there. And it led you to believe that either there was one infant and then either a male and a female or 2 females. I believe that this little family group was kind of passing through that area at the time, because after about May of 2020, we didn't find any new evidence there. So they came in throughout the winter and then kind of moved off in the spring. Again, following like what I had said earlier, they were coming down and hunting those geese down in the backwaters there, and the ducks and the geese and stuff. So it's probable that they moved on with the food source to go find different areas of that. But as far as the family units go, it's thought that these things are more similar to like orangutans, that you would have a group of females and like the adolescents, and then they would have different groups around where they live, and the males would travel between those groups to have children and then move on. That they don't necessarily always stay together, because a lot of these groups are usually females and you don't see the big males. And then a lot of your roadside crossings and stuff are believed to be the adolescent males that get kicked out of these family groups. So they're the ones that are traveling to find new territories and moving around more, whereas the females tend to go to these deep, unreachable areas of the woods and stay there. And that's why you're not seeing all of this as often as you do. The road crossings are what you're seeing of the males traveling between the groups, or the adolescents that are trying to find their own home range. I cannot hear you.
With big energy shifts spinning every which way, where can you turn for clarity and guidance? Turn to world-class psychic, medium, spiritual advisor, and trance channeler Christina Bloom. For more than 20 years, Christina has been helping people find clear answers to life's dilemmas. As an author, public speaker, and radio and podcast host, Christina reaches audiences around the world. You can find her books, Intuitive You and Wisdom for the Age of Ascension, in online stores, and listen to her show, Be the Change, right here on WLTK. Christina offers private psychic readings as well as psychic gallery sessions for business functions and private parties. Schedule your private psychic reading, group function, or reach Christina to speak at your event at psychicchristina67@gmail.com. That's psychicchristina67@gmail.com, or visit her website, christinabloom.com.
Hey everyone, welcome back. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm on the other side now.
I know. We
Oh,
flip-flopped.
welcome to the show.
Exactly. Oh, this happened last week too. I don't know what's going on, but like if I don't talk for a certain amount of time, or who knows, it could be the weather too, because we're starting to get the early outer bands of the storm that's coming through. So who knows? But yeah, it's crazy. But what I was saying is I had Todd Nissan several months back, and he had talked about, and that got me thinking about the family characteristics of Bigfoot, because one of his encounters was he saw three of them standing by the water, of course, and one was tall that he perceived as a male, one that was a little smaller that could have been a female, and then one that was normal human size, which he perceived as like the child type of thing. So, and that got me thinking about, do they, have family structures, like we do, or do they just go do their own thing?
To be honest, until we get, Jane Goodall and Diane Fossey situation going on there, we're not going to know.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, when we were in Rhinelander, those 3 size footprints led me to believe that, male, female, and an infant. So whether they were just traveling together or if they, stay together, I couldn't tell you. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, wouldn't you love to be the Jane Goodall of Bigfoot?
I don't know really. maybe
I think that would be interesting.
Yeah, that we'll say that. Yeah,
or teach them English so they can talk to us.
There are a lot of Indian legends and the indigenous people and stuff that say that they could speak their languages.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that would be very, very interesting. I'm curious to see how the future of the field goes. And then one final question I did have for you was, we were talking about Skinwalker Ranch a little bit earlier, but what are your theories and thoughts behind what might actually be there?
Whew.
What can you say without getting government in trouble?
There we go. To be honest, I've also watched the Blind Frog Ranch, which is a property that is just a few miles away from Skinwalker. And they have a lot of minerals underneath their property that are like semiconductors, and they disrupt the electromagnetic field, we'll say. I don't know if what they're finding at Skinwalker Ranch is more processed man-made kind of stuff, or not man-made, but processed material. It's not just one element, it's a mixture of elements that have come together to make these semiconductors and stuff that they're finding on Skinwalker Ranch. So I think that you're gonna find, whether it's natural or it's created, there is going to be something there that's causing these things. This is like the very big cop-out kind of answer, but it sounds that way. But I think something's there that's causing it. I think that there's something in the ground that is why this is happening in that area. Whether it was put there or whether it's there naturally, that's what it is. Now I don't necessarily think it's a UFO that's buried under there or something, but they've discovered on this last season, these lines on the property that look like what did they call them? Like a satellite array kind of, where they're used for an experiment or something. So if you have that there, what else was put there, or just a natural element that is found in this ground. So that's what I think is going on. If that's why there's this possible wormhole there, as Travis Taylor believes, or what actually is going on, I think it's something that more or less is natural, because even something put there would be a natural happening. Does that make sense? It's hard to formulate that into a thought, but
no, I completely get it too, because it's one of those things where if for some reason it is an alien base or something like that, or was an alien base, it may be natural to us if it was put there thousands of years ago,
right,
type of thing, so it would be natural. So it's kind of like determining between what's natural, what was put there, not so much man-made, but so many different theories. And then going back a little bit to the cryptids, but with Skinwalker Ranch, what do you think causes the cow mutilations that they have?
Man, if I knew that, I'd probably be working on that ranch right now. So, yeah, I don't know. And to touch back on this, I want to kind of clarify it a little bit better. Maybe a magnet is a natural phenomenon. Right. So when I'm saying that there's a natural phenomenon at work there, even if it's put there, if you put a giant magnet under the ground, it's going to be a natural thing to science. So that's kind of where I'm going with that. Not necessarily. Yeah. But, I don't know. We have a property here in Wisconsin. It's, Lee Hample's hayfield. And it's down right off of Bray Road, and his property has very similar situation as Skinwalker Ranch, as far as the things that have happened there. The not necessarily cattle mutilations, but he's put out deer carcasses and had them manipulated in such a way that is not human possible or animal possible, and weird trail camera pictures and electromagnetic phenomenon and all kinds of stuff. And we've gone down there twice now to do an investigation and not been let down either time with the stuff that we got out of there. And this past time, I guess this is maybe the first time I've publicly talked about this, but we did go down this year, spoilers, and we spent an entire night there doing research, and this will come out next year on our YouTube channel. And the first episode that we did from Lee's property and enjoyed that. This one is, we took a lot of the stuff that they're doing on Skinwalker Ranch, as I talked about earlier with Beyond Skinwalker Ranch. We did a lot of those exact same experiments, looking for the 1.6 gigahertz frequency. We shot off fireworks into areas of high strangeness around his property to see if we get a response. We broadcast the 1.6 gigahertz frequency, and if you want to know what happened, you got to wait. So
teaser, perfect timing for the teaser too, because I was gonna
worth watching. So
I was going to tell you, let everybody know where they can find you and any upcoming events or projects that you have that people might be interested in looking up for you.
Absolutely, guys. We put out a documentary every 2 months, stuff that we do for our research. We have another paranormal investigation coming out this year yet, and I don't know what the last episode is this year. Next year we have the Al Ringling Mansion is our episodes. We have Lee Hample's hayfield property, and some footage from my investigation at Skinwalker Ranch will be out next year. And we have a lot of cool stuff. I can't even talk about some of the stuff we got next year, but we have a lot of cool stuff coming out next year on our YouTube channel, which is Wisconsin, spelled out CAPS, Cryptids, Anomalies, and the Paranormal Society on YouTube. And please subscribe, because we're trying to get up to 1,000 subscribers, and then we can finally monetize it and start, helping to pay for a lot of the research that we do, some of our work. But all those links, all of our public events can be found at Wisconsin Caps, right below my name right here, wisconsincaps.com. And Oh, I was gonna say, coming up this September, we are going to be at the Great Lakes Paranormal Conference in Glen Beulah, Wisconsin.
Mhm.
In October, we are going to be at the Milwaukee Paranormal Conference in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I have a library talk in Kenosha, Wisconsin this October as well. And then in November, we are going to be at CryptidCon in Lexington, Kentucky for 2 days. So all that's on our website under Public Events tab. And every Monday, I'm live on the Untold Radio Network, where I have all kinds of cryptozoology guests and more. So
Mhm.
all that's on our website,
Yep.
wisconsincaps.com.
Perfect. Yep. You need to actually come down for the Florida Bigfoot Conference.
Yeah.
They host it every year in the town we live in, and it's huge down here.
Oh, yeah.
It's a big one. So, but definitely thank you for joining us. And I will be in touch because we are going to be hosting after the first of the year a cryptozoology panel discussion on Ghost Ed. So would love to have you be a part of that. So I will definitely be in touch.
Absolutely.
But thank you for joining, and I hope to talk to you soon.
Yep, definitely. I'll be here.
Okay, everyone, I hope you enjoyed today's guest. Amazing. I love Barnaby. He has so much information, so much knowledge that can be used, of course, in the cryptozoology field and the paranormal field. So if you have any questions, please reach out to him, or you can reach out directly to me and I can get you in contact with him if you need to be. But Todd has shared his website and he's done it. And I will also be making sure that I share the website on the Facebook page at Exploring the Paranormal show on Facebook. You can catch it there. Super excited. I still have some time to talk. I wanted to cover a few things that I didn't cover earlier to make sure we had time to discuss everything that I have going on. And if you have any questions, I'm still here to answer them. But don't forget, if you guys are in Florida or can get to Florida, September 15th through the 17th, I am going to be speaking and a special guest at Phantasm in Orlando. It's at the DoubleTree Hilton at the Universal entrance, I think is the full title of it. But it's right there by Universal. We're going to have paranormal guests. It's a horror convention, so you're going to have a lot of the horror celebrities. I think Dave Sheridan's going to be there. And I'm drawing a complete blank on all the other guests that are there. But if you go to phantasmofficial.com, you can see everything. Oh, excuse me. I'm getting the hiccups now. And I will also be doing 7 different panels on different topics in the paranormal, including herbal magic in the paranormal. Could Dracula have been real? We're doing horror story origins. My son is going to be on that one, as well as the vampire one with me. Haunted Florida lighthouses. Joe Frankie and I are doing a presentation on Ouija or not Ouija, so make sure you're there. I'm also going to be having a Annabelle Ouija board that we will be raffling off, and stay tuned because we are going to open that up to the public to raffle that off as well, even if you can't make the event. And as soon as I get that board in, I'll be announcing that. And let me go back to my list. I think I closed it out. Hold on one second. I had a list of a few things I wanted to talk about that I missed earlier. And okay, here we go. Let me scroll back up to the top. Okay. And yep, don't forget tomorrow's roundtable discussion on Ghost Education 101. It's on Facebook, or you can watch YouTube. And it will be a roundtable discussion on collecting evidence. We'll have Larry Lawson, Robert Bradley, and Katie Foreman all talking about collecting evidence and a whole bunch of different methods. Larry Lawson used to be a sheriff's detective, so he's going to talk about collecting it and preserving it, the chain of custody. Robert Bradley does a lot of scientific research, so he'll be talking about that. And Katie Foreman does a lot of residential cases, so she will be discussing how to collect evidence on a residential case. Don't forget Thursday, Joe and I will be live before we take a 2-month break, and our producer Todd Bates will be joining us on Passport to the Paranormal. And scrolling down, we are doing a giveaway on our Patreon page. So for those of you who don't know, we do have a Patreon page for Exploring the Paranormal. Has levels at 5, 25, 50, 75, and 100. It includes everything from behind the scenes, advanced notice of events, gifts if you attend an event, regular drawings, shamanic life coaching, and much more. It is up and running completely. And once we reach 25 patrons at the 25 and above levels, we will be doing a giveaway for a whole bunch of things. You can pick winners will get an option of choosing a book of their choice, a home protection blessing kit that I've put together, paranormal journal. I just started creating different paranormal journals on Amazon. You can pick which one of those you want, and then a spell jar kit for protection. And you can find it at Heather Lee PhD on Patreon. And, I truly do appreciate everyone's support, and it makes it possible to me, for me to keep my blog up. As you guys have seen, those of you following the blog, at heatherleephd.com, you see that I keep up with it. There's a new post every day and a whole bunch of new information happening there. And then, hold on, I'm scrolling down to my guest for next week. Next week on September 5th, we'll be joined by Sin Schrader Hill. Sorry. Oh my goodness. I need to learn. I have glasses on and I still can't read it. But Sin will be joining us to discuss her paranormal experiences and various paranormal activity. So basically that one's going to be on all things paranormal. So have your questions ready. And then on September 12th, I am so looking forward to this one. I'm going to have Jeff Mudgett. He is going to be discussing his new information and new evidence that he's collected in the H.H. Holmes investigation. So for those of you guys who don't recognize that name, he is the lead investigator on American Ripper, talking about the connection between H.H. Holmes and Jack the Ripper. Great show, great guy. Looking forward to having him on the show to discuss his findings and to learn more about his case. And he also has had some paranormal experiences related to his case. So it's going to be really interesting to hear about that. So again, thank you everyone for joining us. I'm going to start cutting it short because it is starting to get dark here. So that means the clouds are starting to roll in. For those of you in Florida, stay safe. I know the storm's hitting a little bit north of here versus directly at us. So that's a good thing. But for those of you that are in the direct path, stay safe. And hopefully we will see you here next week with another amazing episode of Exploring the Paranormal. Thank you everyone for joining us.
The truth is here and now on WLTK-DB Talk Radio at WLTK-DB.com.